What is up, everybody? Welcome back to this Monday edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. As always, I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can give me a follow on Twitter at DylanJD98. And, of course, my faithful co-host down below me, Mr. Matt McGinty. Check him out on Twitter at Matt_McGinty. And today we have my co-host from Turf Talk, the third founder of DSM Media to my right, Scotty. Give him a follow on Twitter. Also at Scotty Drown. And guys, of course, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to DSM Media, check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. You can find our link tree in the bio. It can take you to all of our social media platforms, all of our streaming platforms. And if you're new to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, please. We're trying to get to 500 by, what is it, like 10 days?
Yeah,
Phil Phaithful of DSM Media will shave his beard clean off for the first time in like 3 decades if we can hit that 500 sub mark by his birthday, which is coming up. So, guys, help us out. It's free. Hit that subscribe button. But today, boys, I don't know where to begin. It's a Victory Monday. We can start there. Before we get into everything, Scotty, I know how you're feeling. Gint, how was your weekend?
It was a good weekend. Now I feel sick, so
That's good.
I got Minshew Mania fever.
He said, "Oh, Scotty, you were at the game yesterday. How was it? What was it like being down there? What was the ratio? Because I've seen a lot of tweets about it. What was it like being there ratio-wise, Jets fans to Eagles fans?"
I want to go 50-50, but I'll say 60-40 Birds because the Jets were lacking out there, man. They were sad, too. The Jets fans are just, like, miserable, dude. So many people, like, walked up to me. I was drunk. I was, like, in the crowd, like, yelling, like, at the crowds. Because, you know, they do, like, their Jets Jets chant. So I started yelling, like, over them. Jets suck. And everybody starts laughing. This Jets fan comes up to me. He's just wasted. And he's like, bro, don't rub it in on us, man. And I was like, I'm sorry, man. I know what that feels like. You know, like
Scotty went from like really happy and excited about the Birds to like real sentimental. Like, man,
I know how that feels, man. Like the Jets, dude. Like I was hurt after a 4-11-1 season, like just one out of the blue moon. I'm hurt by like 9-7 seasons squeaking into the playoffs. This guy, I mean, they're at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
They got Zach Wilson, who this guy doesn't even look like he's it. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe earlier, you know, too early to call, but it's a lot going wrong there with the Jets. But the Eagles had a day, man. It was exciting to watch some explosive plays yesterday. And
I wonder why. Nah, I'm just messing around slightly. We got a Twitter comment from Justin. What's going on, Justin? We cannot pull your tweet up we cannot pull your comment up because StreamYard still does not want to fix the issues between them and Twitter. They blame each other. We're not even live on DSM Media's Twitter because, well, we can't be for whatever reason, but we can go live on our personal pages. Figure that one out for yourselves. Guys, all right, let's start with yesterday. Today's just going to be a lot of back and forth bullshit. We're going to talk Eagles, Jets, Minshew Mania, what it means for Jalen Hurts going forward, how Dallas Goedert and the offense opened itself up yesterday. We'll talk Sixers. Obviously, a report came out earlier that apparently, well, obviously, we know what's going on in Portland, but now tensions are rising between the players and Chauncey Billups. Dame reportedly doesn't want out. He wants someone there, and we'll talk about that as well. I'm sure both of you will have a lot to say about that as well. Jason, what's going on? But yesterday, yeah, Eagles come away with a win. 30. What did they drop yesterday? 33? 33-18. Victory against the New York Jets. Gardner Minshew. Scotty, I'll throw it to you first. You were there. I don't know how much you remember of being there. But what did you see from this Eagles offense? What was different about Gardner Minshew under center yesterday?
You know, I'm not here to stir some people up, but
that's what we're doing today, Scotty.
You know, it is what it is, man. It is what it is because the things I'm about to say right now are going to be very incriminating on Jalen Hurts. And the main thing that I noticed yesterday, using the middle of the field. That's like that's one of the simplest things that I saw. That first pass to Dallas Goedert was right down the seam in the middle of the field. Looking at as fast as he processes reads, He was quicker getting the ball out. I mean, it's as simple as that. Making the right reads, getting it to the open guys, able to get guys involved that we just have not seen that involved throughout this season. I didn't get time like before the show to like go back and look at all of Jalen Hurts' games. 242 passing yards. I feel like that would be in Jalen Hurts' second best passing game, like as far as yardage. Just off the top of my head, I know he had a 300-yard passing game at one of those games. I think it was against the Chiefs. But aside from that, the passing game has been dismal. It's been non-existent for the most part in most of these games. And Gardner Minshew comes out 20 of 25, 242 yards. What you'll notice, the Eagles still ran the football over 40 times yesterday because you're moving the ball, because you're making quicker reads, because you're having more consistent drives. You get more opportunities to see what other players have. So that was like the biggest takeaway for me. We can make it about Jalen Hurts.
Don't do that. Don't do this. Come on, Jason. Don't do this.
If those passes are underthrown, then what are Jalen Hurts passes? You know what I mean? Those were touchdowns. So when Jalen Hurts and his passes are off the mark, what are those if those are underthrown? That's my only response to that, because maybe they were underthrown, maybe they weren't. They got to the receiver's hands and he got in the end zone. Like that's all I can see from it.
Yeah. Again, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty touched on it really well. Gardner Minshew did exactly what you need out of a backup quarterback. He got the ball in his playmaker's hands. And credit to Scotty, when I was on Turf Talk, he said, why can't we get Dallas Goedert in a screen? He can do that. What do you know, in the first drive yesterday, he throws in the screen, picks up a long gain, I should say. But I really wish it wasn't the Jets, because I think we would be posing some different questions.
No, I'm not accepting that answer today from people. Well, not from you, from other people.
Yeah, but that factor is going to be there, because maybe Sirianni can call a good game with a guy that can throw 25 times and complete 20 of his attempts. So we'll see. It was a fun game. It felt like one of the first fun games in a little while, to be honest with you. So that was cool.
Yeah. So before I get into what I saw from Gardner Minshew yesterday, yeah, that throw, I remember that play was underthrown. And also wasn't a PI call. So it was, but I'm saying it shouldn't have been. Jesus, what's going on the show today? But no, listen, man, I get it. I get we like Jalen Hurts here. But Gardner Minshew threw the ball very, very well yesterday. My point about the Jets comment was, I know it was against the Jets. I get all that. And I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is going to look like that or look good against a better defense, against maybe Washington in 2 weeks, even though he's not going to start. My point is, you can't throw that argument at me when Jalen Hurts just got effed up and put up 7 points against the New York Giants the week before. I know the Giants have a better defense than the Jets. Didn't the Jets beat the Giants? Yeah, they did.
Their defense isn't better by much. Like,
no,
it's not
so
even
like that. I cannot stand that. I know it's against maybe the worst defense in the NFL, but the Giants defense is a bottom tier defense as well, and he got his ass kicked the week prior to that. What I saw was exactly what I just wanted to see. Now, I need to throw this out there first and foremost for everybody, and I think the two of you are going to agree with this. By what we're saying does not mean we want Gardner Minshew as our quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. It does not mean that Gardner Minshew is an overall better talent or better player than Jalen Hurts is. It does not mean that I want Gardner Minshew, starting next year or anything like that. It's not that at all. Gint knows more than anybody. I couldn't stand Minshew Mania and Gardner Minshew last year and in years past. You see it in the Eagles uniform yesterday. You see him throw a tutty and then come off and he's going nuts. You're like, oh, like he's a vibe. Like, I kind of like it. But that's it. He's a backup. He can come in. He can make some plays. What I wanted to see was a quarterback who can make all the throws on the football field, who can use the middle of the field, as Scotty was saying. And that's what it's not a coincidence that everything opened up yesterday. It's not a coincidence that Dallas Goedert had a career high in receiving yards yesterday and caught 2 touchdowns. That's not a coincidence. Don't give me it was against the New York Jets. They've played the Falcons this year. They've played the Panthers this year. They've played the Chiefs defense when they were awful earlier in the year. They just played the Giants defense, and he's not even a target. So don't give me – it's not a coincidence this thing happens, right? And, Scotty, your point was great because what you gained in the passing attack from what you saw with Gardner Minshew and get Dallas Goedert and everything, Quez Watkins had a couple of big plays yesterday for first downs, right? Is they didn't lose anything in the rushing attack.
Yeah.
They ran for over $180 yesterday and ran more times than they threw the ball yesterday. So you didn't lose anything in that aspect. I know you said it last week on Turf Talk, Scotty. You know, what we see in Minshew, are we going to notice the resounding effect of losing Jalen Hurts in the running game? You didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. And just having a guy that's successful throwing the ball down the field, using the middle of the field. The screen game was opened up for whatever reason yesterday. You had a couple tight end screens to Goddard. You had a slip screen to a running back a couple times. Everything looked better. Guys, how many times did they punt yesterday? I started watching the Union towards the end of the game, so I don't know at the end of the game if the Eagles punted once or twice. But from my memory, I can't remember the special teams unit coming on the field. They scored points every drive.
Punted once.
That's not a coincidence. And I don't know what else to say about it. I understand it was the Jets. And no, he's not going to start against Washington. Jalen Hurts is going to start against Washington. That's fine. But I don't want to hear, it was only against the Jets when other teams have not, or when Jalen Hurts has underperformed against other teams.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I want to ask you, am I sounding all right? Because I just realized like my mic was not plugged in. So I'm basically talking through the MacBook.
No, you're good.
All right, cool. But, you know, just as far as even Miles Sanders, right? He finally gets over 20 touches, gets over 100 rushing yards. Is it what it takes in order to get the ball in his hands as a backup quarterback? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, I get what everybody's talking about. Like, you don't want to start a QB controversy, but at the end of the day, I want the best quarterbacking my team. That's what it comes down to. And the fact that Gardner Minshew can go out, have a game like yesterday, and create this conversation, that's just what it is. It's a conversation, and it's a conversation we have to have.
It's a conversation. It's not this. And I will say, I understand what Jason doesn't want. It's not we're not here talking about the QB controversy and who should be starting against Washington. I'm not here to do that. At least, like, I'm really not. But what I'll say, and he mentions, you know, why didn't Goddard before? Goddard wasn't tight end 1 before. And when Carson was here, Carson's tight end 1 was utilized so much that he caught the most passes in a single season in Eagles franchise history. So it's all about, that's all I was looking for, was to see a different style of play. Lining up under center, Scotty, the bootlegs, the play actions, it just looked better. I don't want the college scheme, and I feel like you just saw a completely different scheme in yesterday's ball game with a, you know, a traditional drop back quarterback who is semi-mobile, versus what Jalen Hurts is with the RPO. Anytime you have to say, like, I'm just thinking back now to how many times throughout this year we've said, like, man, Sirianni needs to pound the ball to help Jalen. Why? Because he can't do the opposite. He can't do the alternative at a high level. And that's not what I want as my franchise guy. Again, this isn't a controversy of Gardner Minshew being QB1 for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew is a career backup. That's all he should be. It just shows you the effects or what this offense can look like with an alternative. And that's all I'm trying to say today.
Yeah. To kind of build off that, it's not the coincidence is the perfect thing. Like you said, like Miles Sanders having 100 yards, it's not a coincidence. Like you said, Goddard had a career day, not even a seasonal day, a career day. And it's how much really is Nick Sirianni catering to where maybe he can unlock this playbook that we've heard about, that he puts players in a great position to succeed, that we saw yesterday and haven't seen in the past with Sirianni, I should say. It's not a debate on if Gardner Minshew should start December 19th. It's should Jalen Hurts start in 2022.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Exactly. Because my mind's not on playoffs, right? Like maybe some people's minds are on playoffs, and what quarterback gives me the best chance to make a playoff run and get the wild card this year? Would I like it? Yeah, I would. And they're a half the game out now behind for the 6 and 7 seed or whatever behind San Fran and Washington heading into the bye. So the Eagles are still, even last week when we thought that loss to the Giants put a fork in them, standings wise, mathematically, it didn't. right? So what gives you the best chance? Let me ask you guys that. What does give the Eagles the best chance? And all right, let me phrase this to you. If Jalen Hurts struggles against Washington, does Gardner Minshew start the next week?
No, he won't.
I don't think.
So you think Jalen finishes the rest of the season if healthy?
Maybe if you're somehow still in the hunt and you lose to Washington, and then is it the Giants again after that? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which you'd probably be out of the hunt if you lose both those games. Then maybe you'd have that conversation. But I don't think they pull the plug. I really don't. If he's healthy,
it's just it's such a tough conversation because. Once again, the thing about Jalen Hurts, I don't dislike this guy. I think he has glimpses of potential. There's obvious limitations. There's obvious limitations to Gardner Minshew. But when you're looking at these guys, I don't understand why Jalen Hurts gets like this crown. Like, I don't understand. Right. They're very similar in age. They're very similar in the amount of starts in the NFL.
Gardner Minshew has only started a handful of games more than Jalen Hurts in his career.
And he's 2 years older, if that, right? So, like, what is the big, like, coveting of, like, just, like, coddling Jalen Hurts? Like, make him outplay Gardner Minshew. It comes down to that. Like, I get it. We don't want to hurt these guys' feelings. We don't want drama in Philadelphia. Sucks. When you're the QB factory, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have conversation about QBs. And, by going out and getting Gardner Minshew in the preseason, it's a great move by Howie. He's a great backup quarterback in the NFL. You go out and you get him. At that point, we should have known that this conversation was going to arise at some point if Jalen Hurts struggled at all during this season. So you come out, you get 20 out of 25 from Gardner Minshew. The offense looks completely explosive. I don't get the coddling of Jalen Hurts.
And maybe it was the Jets, right? Maybe Gardner Minshew plays Washington in 2 weeks if he were to. And he looks completely different, and he can't move the ball because he's not a very good quarterback himself.
We know that.
I'm just talking about the style of play.
Yeah,
made a drastic difference in this offense, right? And I'm telling you what, I'll get to you 1 second. If he comes back next week and they struggle against Washington to move the football, and they score 7, 10, 13 points, and they lose, you're going to have a much bigger problem on your hands.
Yeah.
What if he comes out in the first half, throws 2 interceptions? I'm talking about Jalen Hurts here. You go into halftime, you're down a score. That's a world where I could see maybe something happening.
Well,
go ahead.
Phil just commented, so let me throw this to you guys. Like I said earlier, I'm not prefacing this team as a playoff team, right? But Phil said on Turf Talk to me yesterday, Howie and the organization are trying to sell the fans that they are trying to make the playoffs. So to your point, what you're getting ready to say again is if that's really what they're doing, what Phil said yesterday, if they're trying to sell you that they're trying to make the playoffs and Jalen throws 2 picks and they're losing at halftime.
I just can't see a world in the NFL where you're a half game back of a wild card spot and you're not trying to make the playoffs.
I want to see how patient Howie is.
Yeah.
I want to see, is this season about figuring out if Jalen Hurts can be the guy next year going forward, or are you going to give him a half after the bye week and we're trying to make the playoffs with this roster?
And I
want to see how patient he is. And here's my issue, right? Something that NBC Sports Philly was talking about on the Eagles pregame show, and a lot of people talk about with, Hurts has at least earned next year, right? I have a problem with that statement. And then NBC Sports Philly and the Eagles pregame show were talking about, it's not totally fair because in the NFL, these guys really get 2-3 years to ascend, and he's not going to get that, right? My issue is most franchises don't have the opportunity the Eagles have this offseason. This offseason is incredibly important. Incredibly. You have 3 first-round draft picks. An all-time great, if you want to go that route, is probably on the trading block. Okay? So whatever you want to do with those first-round draft picks, this is incredibly important. I cannot, let's put these draft picks, into the defensive side in the first round. Let's help Jalen. Let's give Jalen another year. Okay, what happens if Jalen continues this next year? And you find out midway through next year, at the end of 2022, that Jalen Hurts is not the answer. You guys still got 2 or 3 first-round draft picks? No, you don't. So, like, my question is, where do you go from there? Because now you have a huge gaping hole in the quarterback position, the most important position in all of major sports. You gonna wait for the next guy to come out of the draft when you're in middle of the pack?
What you would have to do, I feel like, and that's if Howie decides, if Jeff Lurie decides, like, okay, let's give Jalen Hurts next season. Maybe it's they get to free agency, where whatever the case may be, they can't get any of those guys. They can't get a Russell Wilson, an Aaron Rodgers, whatever the case may be. Maybe then now you're like, we kind of have to go with Jalen Hurts, right? So I would trade one of the firsts to get another first in the next year's draft, so that I can have insurance for Jalen Hurts if he does fall under, if he does, end up sucking next year, or even just playing the same. You don't see the progression that you want. You have insurance by collecting those picks. But just to get back to the offense in a sense, it's something that you kind of hit on it, and it's early on in the season, and we're looking at Sirianni, and Dylan, you hit on it too. We're looking at Sirianni like he's just this nut job that won't run the football.
Right.
Do you remember how many guys were open and the throws were just off? And these are game-changing plays. You're talking about Zach Ertz wide open on third down in the middle of the field against Kansas City on that first drive in a game where you have to go score for score with Kansas City. You missed that throw. I've seen several throws missed to Goddard. Which game was that where he missed him twice wide open? Could have been scores.
The
Chargers game. There's so many opportunities where if we have a quarterback that can make some throws that a normal NFL quarterback can do, maybe Sirianni looks like a fucking, excuse my language.
You're good today, bro.
To start the season, maybe. Right? Because these guys are open. Maybe he looks like the passing guru that we thought that Sirianni could install in this offense, the young, eccentric, new type of offense. He can't use it with Jalen Hurts. That's what it looks like, right? Like, it feeds into the point. I know everybody, they don't want to believe it, right? You don't want to believe that Gardner Minshew might be better than your favorite quarterback right now, right? I don't want to believe that either, but it's hard to ignore back-to-back weeks where the Eagles offense puts up 7 points against one of the – I don't care where their defense is ranked. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL. In a division
rival.
You have to win that game if you want to keep your biggest hopes of making the playoffs. You go out, you lay an egg, the defense holds them to 13 points, and you put 7 points on the board. So then the next week we get to the Jets, the offense is booming. They have 33 points with Gardner Minshew. We can't just discount that. We can't just throw it to the Wolves. If we want to point to games, let's point to the Lions game as well, where we beat them 44-6. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 13 times, right? Like, it's so obvious to me. We'll let it play out. Like I said, I wouldn't bench Jalen Hurts for Gardner Minshew right now.
No.
I think ultimately, in my mind, they're both backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, when I look at the trajectory, I don't see much difference, as far as the trajectory of Jalen Hurts' career compared to Gardner Minshew's. And that's why, once again, to my point, why are we treating Jalen Hurts different than Gardner Minshew? I don't understand that. So, I'm just getting tired of it. Like, the fan base is so, like, confused. And they just sit there and they, like, on Twitter, they just ride each other and like, just – they don't even think for themselves. It's not critical thinking. Because I'm looking at this. I'm looking at our team last year where Carson Wentz was on the freaking cross last year after he led our team to the playoffs 2 years in a row with 0 wide receivers. But then we get to this season, we throw away our franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz, throw him to Indy because everybody in Philly wanted him off the team. He sucks. He's injury prone. You bring in Jalen Hurts, and now this guy, this second-round pick, who shows the limitations that were in his prospect profile coming out of college, and he gets every excuse under the sun, but you throw away your potential MVP player. Carson Wentz is playing like an MVP this season. Nobody wants to talk about it in Philadelphia because it's embarrassing.
No, what people want to do is they want to take one funny interception in the end zone, and they want to make that the whole season.
One of his 3 or 4 interceptions this season.
Right. Yeah.
So
make it make sense.
So how? Because Jason had a good comment. He says the leash is short. Do you guys think the leash is actually short? Because Jalen Hurts had his worst game of his career against the Giants, and he would have started this week if he wasn't injured. So why should we think the leash is short? I really don't. I think they're going to run this guy.
I don't know if it is short. You might be right, Ken. But I think that Howie and Jeffrey care about outside perception. And when you see the difference in the offense, right, that passing offense that they want so desperately, you see that and you see what he just did. And then if he comes back next week against another division rival and shits the bed and they lose, maybe he does it again for a half. Maybe the leash is short because they care about what the fans and the outside think too much than saying we have to let Jalen just finish this season and then we can process everything in the offseason, because 2021 isn't the year for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're going to try to make it some way, somehow, the year for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Is there any, like as far as looking at the situation, because I know I agree with you, Dylan, wholeheartedly. But what I'm getting at here is, does Howie cling on to Jalen Hurts as a starter because he's his second-round pick? Ultimately, what costed him Carson Wentz?
Right. It's the wide receiver argument. Howie's not maybe like that. That's the opposite end of it, right?
Right.
Howie doesn't want to look stupid by benching his second-round pick a year in for Gardner Minshew, right? So I don't know. That's Howie's problem.
Situation, man.
I'm gonna sit back, watch, see what the offense looks like with each guy, and go from there.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this one. It's totally on topic of the Eagles, but different player. So Scotty had mentioned how the Eagles fans are like, oh, Carson Wentz is injury prone, this, that, we got to get rid of him. We're at the point where it's pretty sad, but Miles Sanders cannot stay on the field and stay healthy, whether he has a good game or not. This guy can't be a part of the plans of the future for these guys, correct?
I would doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless he's going to
doubt it. And he looked so good yesterday, dude.
He did.
It's almost like when you give him the ball and give him a lot of touches, he's going to break that one run.
And that's something that I want to talk about. That I forgot to mention earlier when you were talking about the Sanders. It's not a coincidence that Sanders had 24 carries for over 100 yards, right? Because in the Jalen Hurts style of offense, the RPO is called as a run play for Nick Sirianni and the coaching staff. So when Jalen's running 11, 12, 13, 14 times per game because he's keeping it or whatever, that takes the ball out of Miles Sanders' hands. When you have a traditional quarterback who your run play is a run play, pass play is a pass play. I think that, dude, my eyes were just like, I was just sitting back, like excited and happy, but I was just like laughing because it's like, it's just so simple. Like, and you sit back and you're like, I'm watching a college style offense trying to be ran. Scotty, you talked earlier like how harsh we were on Nick Sirianni early in the year. Yeah, myself too. And he's showed a lot of strides and a lot of growth over the last month or so. But maybe that's what it was. Maybe he saw up close and personal what we're saying now about Jalen Hurts, and when everyone wanted him to succeed, and he's trying to just put a patchwork offense there. Okay, what can I do to make Jalen look good, to make Jalen play better this week? And finally, he got to that point in Detroit, and it's where we've gotten to now. But I don't know.
No,
I think the most important thing was the fact that you can't. Everyone was so excited about how this team found identity as a rushing team, and Jalen plays a big part in that. Pretty sure the Eagles just led the NFL in rushing yards yesterday.
Yeah.
So, no. The Eagles lead the NFL in rushing, or right up there, because that's what their offensive line does best, and they have a decent rotation of backs that are getting in there and hitting holes and everything. Yeah, the quarterback numbers have helped. And Scotty, that's the thing. That's another thing that I think gets skewed with people, right? You mentioned earlier, like, why does Jalen get this compared to Minshew? Because Jalen's numbers don't reflect Minshew because they stack them. It's the passing, and it's the rushing, right? I don't care about that.
Either, man.
It's nice. It's nice, man.
Sometimes
it's a nice weapon to have as a backup plan, right? I don't care that he's rushed for X amount of yards. And if your quarterback's your leading rusher, you have a problem offensively.
And it's a bittersweet talent, right? Like, yeah, we love it when he breaks out of the pocket and makes a play with his legs that, maybe other quarterbacks can't. We hate it when he leaves the pocket too early and doesn't look down the field. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, I'm so over coddling these players. Like, be good or I'm going to criticize you. It's as simple as that. That's what we're here to do. Like, I don't understand it, but,
boy got taken off of punt return duty yesterday.
Who, Rager? Yeah.
Let's not even mention him. And I for retrospect, I think Zaire Smith was a better draft pick than Jalen Reagor. I truthfully stand by that. At least Zaire Smith isn't like on the Sixers roster playing terrible every week. Like, this guy does nothing. Jefferson, 183 yards. Yesterday.
When he let the ball bounce over his head on the kickoff at the 1 yard line and it came back in.
Can't stand it.
I can't believe it, dude. Like,
he said it on Twitter yesterday, man. This guy's head's not in it. Like, I don't know what's wrong with him. Sit him out. But,
he needs a change. Change in scenery.
Yeah, he's got way too much pressure mounted up on him.
And the Nelson Aguilar comparisons aren't close. Truthfully.
Yeah, it's not even close. Nelson Aguilar was worlds better than
he caught 9 passes in the Super Bowl.
And Phil might have thought I was joking. You guys might have thought I was joking in the chat. We're looking for wide receivers. Run Kenny Gainwell out there. I saw Jason just mentioned it in the chat there. How good Kenny Gainwell's look. He played wide receiver and running back in college. Run him out there. Give it a shot. The dude has looked pretty productive this season when he's gotten his opportunities. And I'm not convinced that he couldn't be a better wide receiver than Jalen Reagor. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think that. But to follow up on what Gent said about Miles Sanders as well, just like that, I think Kenneth Gainwell makes Miles Sanders expendable. You got a young running back who showed promise this season. I love Miles Sanders. You guys know that. I want the ball in his hands more. I think he's one of our best skill players. But the running back position goes downhill super fast. And we're talking about a guy that couldn't even stay on the field his first, 3 seasons now? He's had injuries that kept him out multiple games.
Yeah, yesterday sucked because he was looking so good, and it was just kind of like a freak roll up, and you saw it happen. Like when they showed the replay, you saw him yell out in pain when the ankle hit, not like after, and you're like, oh, he's gonna be fine. Like it hit and he yelled out. Now I don't know if he's gonna be okay or not. But the bye week came at a great time. He got nicked up, Fletch got nicked up, Kelsey got nicked up, a lot of guys got nicked up. And they're heading into the bye week, and we'll see what they look like after. Guys, is there anything else we want to talk about from yesterday's ball game before we move on?
Yeah. Would you have gotten up from Josh Sweat's sack?
No. The one where he turned around?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Dude, that dude got smoked, man. I literally felt so bad.
My balls would have been in my throat. He got hit so it was that would be the worst thing ever. Like, it's one thing to not see it coming from your blind side or to see one coming, right, and prepare. He rolled around, did a 180, and as he's coming in the spin, gets lifted off the effing ground, dude, and thrown through the turf. No way.
Oh goodness.
No, you would have been what's the it's from The Longest Yard when the backup quarterback gets wrecked. Remember?
Oh,
have you ever seen The Longest Yard?
Yeah. The dude.
dude's like the short little dude.
He's like, why can't I play quarterback? He's like,
yeah, but then he gets in the game and he plays one play and literally has to go out on a stretcher. Yeah. That would just be me, bro. I'd just be laying there, mouthpiece out of my mouth, come get me, guys, because I'm not moving. Not getting up.
Out of here,
dude.
No, I guess last takeaway from that game.
How do you think the defense looked, Scotty?
Defense?
I know how
concerning
the game started horribly.
Yeah.
But
they bounced back. They did what they were supposed to. They turned the Jets over. They got a few sacks. They did what they were supposed to against the Jets. I mean, you would have liked a little bit better of a first half, but they adjusted in the second half, didn't give up any points. Can't complain, honestly. I can't complain.
And special teams on the first 2 possessions.
Yeah, it was special teams. They started with great field possession on a lot of those. And just a side note about the Jets, I love Elijah Moore. I don't know if you guys, kept your eyes on him. Yeah. I love him as a wide receiver I think he was out of Ole Miss, but I guess the defense, I don't really have anything like bad to say, right? Like struggled in the first half, gave up 18 points. You'd like to see it a little bit more stingy against the Jets, but they got Zach Wilson back. He's a young quarterback, can use his legs. I can't complain. That defense looked pretty solid in the second half.
Life's really easy when they can only run 3 plays in the third quarter because Gardner Minshew controlled the game so well to the point where he took up half the third quarter on the first drive. And then they played 3 plays the next thing you know.
That was crazy. When they flashed the time of possession in the third quarter stat up, and it was like 11:53 Eagles, a minute 13 Jets.
And we only got a field goal out of it. We only got 3 points out of the possession. I was like, oh my God. This dude just took a country mile to score 3 points. But dude, Gardner Minshew did his thing, man. Did exactly what you need out of back. Didn't turn the ball over, which is half the battle at this point, it seems, with the Philadelphia Eagles. But
again, he didn't put up the gaudy numbers that you threw at that you like.
Yeah, I said 375 and 3 touchdowns, 242 and 2 touchdowns. Ain't that bad?
Yeah, but he started it. He just didn't need to. Like if it he came out, he said, "Watch this, bro."
Is he a free agent this offseason?
No, isn't he? He's under next year, I believe.
Okay, I think that.
I think. I could be wrong, but I thought like that was like part of the thing about the trade was like the fact that you have him as your backup for next year if you need him.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, Murph. I mean, hey. Sure.
Pure Garden. Yeah, I wouldn't spell his name right either.
Yeah, Minshew is under contract next year. Jason, I do not. Have you guys heard anything about
Sirianni said
Jason Kelce?
Something about good news was what I read on Twitter.
Yeah, it was good news, and that he's hopeful that he can return after the bye.
Because
with Brooks,
he'll be back.
He's definitely pretty important, right? When Herbig snapped the ball 45 feet over Minshew's head in the fourth quarter.
Murph, you like Justin Jefferson? I feel you, bro. we drafted Jalen Reagor over him. All right, I think that's going to wrap up the Eagles portion of today's show. Obviously, guys, we'll have a lot to think about. Of course, that's the thing. The bye week came at a perfect time, but at the same time, it didn't because that performance gets to marinate for a long time before we have to see them play again and what it looks like after that. So,
and I saw Jason say go watch it. I'm going to go watch the tape after this because it's a very enjoyable game. I would love to watch it.
A win is enjoyable when they feel so scarce this season, Scotty, even though they're 6-7. But let's move on to the Sixers because I know Gint wants to talk about something, and Scotty, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about it as well. Gint, also, you sent a picture into the chat over the weekend. You think that was 2-5? I think it was Toby.
Well, dude, Toby was out with an illness. So what would he be doing in the arena?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But what would Ben be doing in the arena at this point? You know,
like in Atlanta too. You know,
little do we know, it's probably some trainer that everyone loves or something. But.
Some 6'8" trainer.
Yeah, Shake Milton was looking up at whoever it was.
Yeah, man.
Shake looked like a 5'10" guard.
And I thought maybe it was like Bassey, and I just, I don't know what he looks like, but no, I think Bassey was in the other part of the picture. You could see his face, so I don't think it was him either.
All right, so the Sixers are in Charlotte tonight to take on the Hornets. They're 12-11. They sit in the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. A lot we could go over. A lot, obviously, we'll get to 2-5 in a second, but I do want to get your guys' thoughts on how the team has looked over the last couple games since Joel Embiid and the COVID stint has kind of gotten over. Again, I'll throw this to you first. You got any worries about the pairing of Maxey and Embiid, how it's looked so far?
I just saw Maxey's out.
Really?
It's on Sports Illustrated. I looked up the Hornets, and it says Tyrese Maxey will miss Monday's game versus Hornets.
Well, DeMar DeRozan right here is on.
Hey, DeMar just got sent as well. Oh, yeah, he is out. Non-COVID related illness.
Interesting. Why?
This team, dude, forget my question. This team can't be healthy. Like, they just can't stay healthy. They're all sick. It's COVID. It's the flu. It's a sinus infection. Like, I've never seen anything like this.
And we get Toby back tonight, right?
Yeah, totally off topic. Ready for this?
I don't know if he's back.
My boy just texted me and said, "You didn't see my comment, SMH." I said, "No, what is it?" He said, "Nick Foles sacrificed himself so we don't make the same mistake as last time. Don't mess this up. Minshew's QB1."
Did he do it on Twitter?
Yeah, that's why.
That's why. Yeah, we don't get the comments on StreamYard.
That would have been a classic.
Yeah.
But to get to your question between Embiid and Maxey, I think they're always going to be a weird pairing because of how downhill Tyrese Maxey is and how effective he is getting to the rim, and Joel Embiid just being a back-to-the-basket center that needs the ball in his hands a lot to be dominant, which he should have the ball in his hands a lot to be dominant. But there's a reason why the splits of Maxey in games where Embiid doesn't play is much better than games when he plays. I also think he was forced into the starting lineup because of the obvious situation that I think he would benefit with Embiid off the court a little bit more. And that's where this trade package that surfaced the air today becomes really interesting to see if he's able to be moved to the bench at that point.
All right, before we get to that trade package, Scotty, any worries at all that because sometimes it looks great. Like Maxey he's not turning the ball over, which is astounding to me so far in his early career. But at times the offense and that pairing it hasn't worked itself out yet. And now that could take time. Maybe in 2 months that pairing's fine and the starting five is fine and just rattling off W's. But any worry about this duo together?
So I do agree with Gant. I mean, you can see it clear as day, and then even more when Tobias is out there as well. So I don't worry about the fit per se, just because I think if we end up getting something in return for Ben, most likely it'll end up with Maxey on the bench coming off as a 6-man. It's all about what Maxey, once he gets to a certain point in his career, what does he want out of his career? Because, if he's not willing to be that Lou Will guy off the bench for his whole career, right? Because we could argue, right? I mean, I think he's a starting point guard in the NBA at this point right now, the way he's played. But you're always going to have to do what's best for the team and what fits with your team and what fits your best player, which is Joel Embiid. It's more about what Tyrese Maxey wants out of his career. If he's cool with being that 6-man, then I love him for the Sixers. I love him for the Sixers long term. But it does worry me. He would have to really change his game around as far as his tendencies, as far as, coming off those screens, being willing to just pull up from the 3-point line. That's something that he would have to do in order to be successful. But, to your point, Gant, making that trade that we saw today, that would solve the issue. But how long does it solve the issue? How long do we wait? Is Maxey the starting point guard? Is he just a guy that will never be able to fit beside Embiid? And then all of a sudden, we're having similar conversations that we had with Ben Simmons, in a sense. So it's an interesting topic, but I'm going to give it a little more time and see how it plays out.
And the kid is super, super young, obviously still. Yeah. He can develop a 40% from 3 jump shot at the catch and shoot, especially. So it's not something to really say, oh, it's never going to work. But for now, it's just a very odd fit in an essence of where when he's played with the backups, when he's played with lineups of Drummond and Niang for when Tobias, he's looked unbelievable. When he's able to just duck his head and attack the rim and get laid out while the refs watch. Yeah.
Do you guys think that Embiid's shooting woes this season, and since he's come back from COVID, have kind of maybe made that look a little worse? Like the nights when Embiid starts the game 0 of 9 from the field and they're together on the court, like do you think the shooting is just making it look worse or not? Like what if Embiid's 6 of 8 to start the game on the floor next to Maxey?
Yeah, I think the splits of their plus minus together would change, and the calculators out there would give them a little bit more of a break, to say the least. Because, like you said, Dylan,
I like that term.
It was a point to the one. I think the one game I texted my buddies, I was like, "Dude, Maxey and Embiid are combined 2 of 24."
Yeah,
when you watch
Celtics game, right?
Yeah, you watch Joel Embiid miss 15-footers that last year. It felt like every single one he shot was automatic. So
right,
it's a little bit different. No matter who's on the court with Embiid, I don't think they really change how he is. I think he's going to be dominant no matter what. We talk about how Ben's not the best pairing with Joel, but Joel put up MVP statistics last year and was one of probably the best player in the NBA last year at some points in terms of dominance. So it doesn't really matter. It's more of who's next to Embiid and if they can capitalize their game, to say the least.
There's 2 things that I kind of just thought about with Maxey and Embiid. So the first thing, I think Doc can stagger the lineups a little bit better. Just because you're starting just because they go out there as starters doesn't mean that they have to stay like that throughout the game. So staggering Tyrese Maxey with that second unit a little bit more. Maybe he's the first guy to go to the bench if he is a starter. Then that way you can get him as the first guy to come back in the second quarter. The other thing, I think, something that would do a little bit of justice. I don't know what goes on in the locker room. Joel Embiid, if he just tells Maxey, it can't come from Doc, it can't come from anybody else, right? Has to come from Joel Embiid. Play your game. Stop deferring to me. Do your thing, right? Like, there's going to be times where plays are drawn up for me. And maybe this is a Doc thing, too.
There's going to be times where I tell you, get me the effing ball.
Yeah.
But if I'm not telling you, get me the effing ball, don't just come across half court.
Do your thing. Make this easier on me, bro. You're the young guy. Attack the lane like you love to do. Because a lot of the time it does. It looks like Maxey's looking around, whether it's Seth, whether it's Tobias, whether it's, Joel Embiid. And part of me wonders if that's what Doc was saying at the beginning of the season. Anytime you're taking a shot, you're taking shots out of the hands of, Ray Allen, what he said to Rajon Rondo early in his career. You have to wonder if that's in Maxey's head or if that's what they're kind of drilling in his head. They want him to do that. So there's a lot that goes into it. So I am interested to see how it plays out over the rest of the season.
Sure. All right, 2 more things before we get to that package and the 2-5 talk. I want to hit on one other player real quick because I'm saying the calculators, even not just the calculators, because he hasn't been great and he's missed some time this year. But I'm seeing a lot of the hatred on social media right now for this player that I saw. 2021 was this past year, so in like 2019, 2020 season. Tobias Harris is not a fan favorite at the moment. People are back out, mocking the Tobias Harris is an all-star. They are getting on Toby this year. He hasn't been good enough. I'm going to be frank with you. He hasn't. But where do you guys stand on Tobias Harris right now? Is the hatred warranted? Is the criticism warranted, or is it a little much?
He hasn't been playing well by any means. But the problems he's had this year, he had last year. And it was just in a smaller light because all the blame got put on to another person. So he's not shooting open jumpers from beyond the arc. That people hated that about him. And I do too. He didn't do it that much last year either. Now he's not making shots either, which kills you. But you're going to go through those stretches of the season, in my opinion. Tobias Harris has been a bucket getter since he's been on the Sixers. But he does deserve all the flack he's getting, if that makes sense. But I don't get why the players in Philadelphia come with the same problems every single year. Like, how are they not just sitting there saying, like, yo, when you catch this from beyond the arc and you have space, you need to shoot it even if it doesn't go in. So we'll see. He deserves the flack he's getting, but I wouldn't be surprised if a week and a half or 2 weeks from now we're saying, wow, Tobias just had 4 20-point games in the last 2 weeks. So
now, Scotty, to you, Tobias hasn't looked good even before COVID and even when he was healthy. So hit on that as well. But you had a very good tweet, saying, we all love Joel Embiid. So this isn't anything towards Joel Embiid. It's just like when we love this player, we cut him a break, right? So Joel Embiid doesn't look good after COVID. He's recovering from COVID. He's getting back in game shape. He's whatever. Toby comes back from COVID and it's off with his head. He sucks. He's not an all-star. Get him out. Like, whatever. Trade him, whatever. So just where do you think Toby stands right now?
So my line of thinking that goes into that tweet, and I'm going off the numbers, right? And I'm looking at Embiid back since COVID, Tobias Harris back since COVID. Both of these guys completely exploded on their return to the court. Tobias Harris had his season high. I believe it was like 32 points against who was I can't remember. I'm not even going to try to think about it. Had his career high first game back from COVID. Then Joel Embiid, what's he do? He comes out, he has 42 in his first game back from COVID. Then over the next few games, you start to see that fatigue set in. And you start seeing the really bad shooting by Embiid. It's at a higher clip than Tobias because he's obviously the better player, the more relied on player. Tobias obviously had the same shooting woes. So whenever we're jumping to like these conclusions, as far as, Tobias isn't worth this, Tobias isn't worth that. Tobias already has a contract. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. It's happened. We can't take it back. We all know that we should have kept Jimmy Butler. We can't take it back. And maybe I am a little bit biased to Tobias, right? Guy DM'd me. He offered to send me a jersey. I may be a little biased.
Did you get the jersey? I forget.
I didn't get it yet, but he did send it. So I'm waiting for it in the mail. I just don't get the uneven distribution, right? If we want to call it how we see it, call it how we see it. Let Joel Embiid know he's sucking too. That's all I was saying in that sense. As far as the hate, I don't think the hate's warranted. I think the criticization is warranted, and rightfully so. Like Gant said, and it's such an annoying trend in all of Philadelphia sports. It feels like these players just never seem to develop or get better or fix their flaws. That's why, Tyrese Maxey is so exciting. We see him come out. He increases his scoring total by 9 points. It's most in the NBA so far this season. Comes out, shows these direct improvements, but we're just so not used to seeing it. As Gant mentioned, same old with Doc, same old with inconsistent Shake and Korkmaz. It's like it gets so played out. And then even the other night, I was infuriated against the Atlanta Hawks in that second quarter where we're like 3 for 17, keep jacking up threes. That shit is so annoying. It's so played out. Make the adjustments, Doc. It's so annoying. The all bench lineups coming in and losing leads. It's so annoying. But, just as far as Tobias, it's something that I can't even wrap my head around as far as what you said there again. Similar to the Ben Simmons, at least Ben Simmons improved his defense, but the offensive woes, I don't understand why it's like beating your head against the wall. It's literally insanity is like going through this over and over again. I just don't get it. It's very simple. And at times last year, we did see Tobias be decisive. We thought that Doc Rivers had fixed him. And then you come out this season, you start showing the same signs. The criticization is definitely warranted. I do agree with that.
Criticism, yeah. But when you want to start going off, because Tobias Harris has realistically played in how many games this year so far? The Sixers have played 23 games. Toby's probably missed close to half of them, maybe.
I was going to say he's probably missed like 10, right?
Right.
Maybe 9.
So he hasn't looked that great through a stretch of 12,
He's
13
played 14 games.
Okay. So he's looked below average or not that great in 14 games, and they all want to come out, right? He's not an all-star, right? Well, what happens when he goes on a 15-game stretch where he averages 23 and 9 and 5, and he's closing out games against the Lakers and the Knicks, and you don't hear a peep, right? I'm not saying the criticism isn't warranted, but stay like that when he is closing out games and playing well for the Sixers. All right, last thing before we get to this, I gotta get your guys' thoughts on the Hawks win. Gint probably doesn't remember, same as Scotty not remembering the Jets game. How big was this? Because this team, once again on a road trip, they just lost to Boston and they didn't play well at all. And you're not playing well in the first half. You got angry fans, you got angry podcasters and content creators on social media freaking out. And something changed in the second half. And Joel Embiid down the stretch was great. And they close out the Atlanta Hawks 98-96. You see Joel Embiid going nuts on the floor after. You see George Niang going nuts on the floor after. What did it mean? I know it's an early season game, but what did it mean to did it jumpstart this team at all? What did you see out of Joel's reaction? Either one of you can start.
I got you. So for me, yeah, it was a huge win. You saw it in Joel's, celebration after the game. I know there were like people making fun. God forbid a guy want to win. I mean, I'm so sick of like these dumb tweets. I gotta like leave the Twitterverse a little bit, man. It's so stupid sometimes. But obviously a game that meant a lot. They had been struggling. They were 3 out of their last 10, I believe, going into that game. So a good way to get back on the nod. You get a big win against the Hawks.
2-0 versus the Hawks. Yeah.
2-0 versus the Hawks, who they obviously had. They were obviously eliminated by in the postseason. And those are solid wins. The Hawks were 8-2 in their last 10 coming into that game. So big win on the road. Something that they've struggled with early on here. And as far as just looking at their upcoming schedule, they needed to get that W. I know we kind of got lucky with the Hornets. The Hornets have played really well this season. And I know Chile, I'm sorry if I say the name wrong. I don't know what his real name is.
That's what I say too.
Are y'all worried about the Charlotte Hornets? We're lucky. They are without LaMelo Ball. They're without a few players there. The schedule after these two matchups with the Hornets gets really rough. I mean, it's the Warriors, Jazz, down the line. I can't remember who's after that. But a lot of opportunity in this month, and it was great to see them get back on track. Usually it's the second half collapse, but in this turn, it was actually where they dominated the first and the fourth quarter. The Hawks dominated second and third. But they showed resilience, and that was the biggest thing for me. Doc showed that he could handle a crunch time situation and get the W. Whether that's on Doc or not, I don't know. Maybe it's just lucky that Embiid was hot at the end of the game. But overall, just a great win, a gutty win on the road. I know I criticized them heavily after that second quarter collapse. They came out, they were resilient, they answered all the questions, and they did what they're supposed to, get the W. You had Trae Young, he was out there flexing, doing his thing, which is so annoying. He's a really good ball player. Don't get me wrong. He's really talented, but he's one of the most annoying players that you could ever play. He's so cocky, man. It's so annoying. He's such a little dude. But
or when he bitches about foul calls on the same calls he's made a living on so far.
It's so funny. Maxey got him back too with the same move. But yeah, he's annoying. The bitching about fouls all the time. I mean, it's constant. But just a great overall gutsy win. And now they have a chance to really build some momentum here. And just like to answer the bottom end of your question, I think they can build off of this. I think that was huge.
I can't believe the Hawks only put up 9 points in the fourth quarter.
It's crazy.
Gant, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was a really important win just because of the fact of how they played the Celtics.
We just got to screenshot this.
With how poor the Celtics played. I mean, they played against the Celtics, I should say.
Yeah.
What I do, which kind of irks me a little bit, is the Hawks seem to be this final boss at Philly fan base now for some reason. Sixers are and were a better team than the Hawks, in my opinion. Maybe at the beginning of the season I had some question marks coming into it. Atlanta's going to be missing some guys again for a little bit, but I just hate the little, it's always going to be on our schedule because of what happened last year. But, they give me, this, we have to beat them to overcome and think we're a real
rivalry.
Like the Celtics of, 3 or 4 years ago.
Exactly. I just don't. For some reason, that really irks me. But overall, it was a good game, like I said. The fourth quarter looked great, which it usually, like Scotty said, doesn't. But it's awesome to see Embiid. He wears his heart on his sleeve. They clearly wanted to win that game, so it was nice to see he dominated towards the end of the game from what I remember. So,
yeah. Also, Hawks fans are the worst too, dude.
They are.
I know we've had some back and forth interaction, but to just cheer, chanting about Ben at the game and Embiid's at the free throw line. Keith Pompey tweeted they were tweeting Ben doesn't like you or whatever. Really, really corny. All right. So final thing to go over today. I don't know. Is it my audio? Do you guys hear that or no? All right, we might be good now. All right. So final thing, trade package. Again, I actually didn't see the package. I was working today. I only saw the report of Dame wanting to play with Ben in Portland. What is the package that you are seeing with Portland?
I saw it was CJ McCollum, Anthony Simons, or Nazir Little, I think, was the other guy that they named, and then a pick or something. Mainly it's a flip of Ben and CJ from what it seems. I think the other just kind of balanced out the salaries a little bit. It gives Philly some youth as well, which doesn't hurt. I know a lot of people are Anthony Simons fans. This kid that came out of high school, I believe. I don't think he played college ball. He played in the G League for a year. But it's really interesting. It's a package we all kind of thought would come to fruition if Portland played bad, because Dame, I think, at this point is a pipe dream. Even though I said to Dylan before, I said, all right, he wants to play with Ben. Trade Toby, trade Maxey, and we'll bring Dame to Philly. But it poses a lot of questions where they'd go. Would then Maxey become a guy that comes off the bench? Would they try to run Seth off the bench? Would they run Maxey, Seth, and CJ McCollum in the same unit? Would Matisse start with all that offense in the backcourt? It poses a lot of questions on where Philly would go from it. But I think CJ would kind of have to play in that point guard role, which if we think how heavy isolation the Sixers are now, wait till a team ran by CJ McCollum is. But it would be interesting. I'm ready to move on. I would sign up for the trade right now if you asked me to, even though next Wednesday is when a lot of guys are freed up to be able to be moved for trades, like De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis. Those are all guys that can be moved starting next Wednesday. So maybe we'll see some other names if it kind of drags out till then. But it was definitely cool to see some news come that there's talks, because at this point,
right,
it's just a bunch of silence about the situation besides a picture of a guy that we perceived was him.
All right, Scotty. So basically, like Gin said, all the extra is fluff. Ben on his way out. Sixers receive CJ McCollum. Sign you up? No.
Look, I would probably do Ben straight up for CJ McCollum. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like at this point, like Gen said, I think that this team can contend like without making a move. Like I don't think that they're gonna be like championship favorites. I think they're a second round team, possibly, without making any moves right now. If you add CJ McCollum, I may catapult them into that top 5 of the NBA as far as chances to win. You add Anthony Simons. I do. I love the kid. It's natural. He's got very natural scoring ability, which is something that the Sixers kind of lack. Just that pure score. He's a pure shooter. So when you throw him in with it, I think that's more a no-brainer. And a first-round draft pick on top of it, because I saw the same thing again. So it was either it was talked about. It was CJ McCollum, Anthony Simons, or a guy like Nasir Little, plus a first-round pick. At this point, yeah, you take it. I don't know what other avenues we could even explore at this point, right? Like I guess a good question to ask yourself, if we're looking at like a CJ McCollum or like a De'Aaron Fox, who is like the better fit with this team? Like what is your opinions on that? Like De'Aaron Fox or CJ Fox?
I would take Fox.
Would you take him for fit or for just because he's like a better like prospect as far as like his potential?
I would take him because of how important I think a point guard is right now. Now, if you could tell me we could get CJ McCollum and then down the road there's going to be a buyout or a deal of another point guard, I'd rather CJ McCollum at that point. But I think this team's desperately missing a point guard. But again, I'd sign up for both.
I got you. Yeah. So that's like the question that you have to ask yourself is, or like a DeJounte Murray, right, out of San Antonio. He's been balling, by the way. I'm not sure that they would even trade him.
I love DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, he's a monster. If you look at it from that perspective, like who would you rather have, CJ McCollum or Malcolm Brogdon, right? I know Brogdon's off the deal with the extension until like a certain point, but who would you rather have, right? Like Malcolm Brogdon or CJ McCollum? I think Malcolm Brogdon probably be a better fit for the Sixers, because I do agree with what Gent said. It is a lot of ISO ball. And you throw this guy at the point guard. You have Seth Curry at the shooting guard. I guess you put Matisse in there for defensive purposes. I still think they would be a good team. I just worry that we start to see like the similar issues that we already have. When I look at CJ McCollum, though, I do look at him as a guard that can have the ball in his hands at the end of a game and could potentially get a shot for himself. So that is the one factor. And he scores over 20 points. So you can't, look aside from that. But as far as like facilitation and natural point guard play, he's not the guy you're looking for, right? Like he's not the perfect fit that's going to run the offense. He's a guy that's going to get you a bucket. Maybe he can revert, because he did play point guard in college at Lehigh. Maybe he can revert to back some of that. Maybe some of it's been limited playing with Dame. But overall, I would do the deal. I think you have to. You get a 20.
You would have to at this point. Like I just feel like if Portland calls and says this is the deal, you're out of call. Like this is what you had to do. The chips are on the table. We don't really have any other options. I hear what both of you are saying. Again, I mean, I do agree with you, and it could be ugly, but what CJ would provide that the Sixers don't have right now. Like I love Seth. Don't get me wrong. And I love Tobias when he's hot, but the Sixers, like CJ would just be a bucket, like an easy bucket getter. And the Sixers don't have that. So like down the stretch in a game or just consistently over a game, if CJ can go give you 20 to 25 a night, like you're adding that to this offense. Let's say in place of, well, you were saying Maxey would go to the bench. So, in play, you're adding that, and then Tease would come in for Danny Green. So it would work itself out. I would have to do it. I think anyone would say yes right now because of the situation that they're in.
Real quick, too. Just like a side note, as I'm thinking about, I'm starting to get into like the deep thoughts of CJ McCollum on the Sixers now. Shooting 39% from three, right, with the Portland Trailblazers this season so far. How does that look when the floor is so spaced out with Joel Embiid demanding a bunch of attention as well? So that's another thing that I'm looking at. How much better could CJ McCollum be playing with Embiid, maybe in a screen and roll type of setting as well?
But how much does how
score like that from the perimeter?
how much better does Embiid look? Like we're talking about the clogging issues and the max he played next to Embiid. How much different and how much better does Embiid look paired next to CJ McCollum? We'll have to wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. It's getting to the point. I don't want to become impatient, but at some point you have to make a move. You can't just keep sitting on your hands. And we'll see what happens. I don't like the idea of it getting to the deadline. At that point, I think you're getting the bottom of the barrel. Then you're scraping the bottom of the barrel for a deal for Ben. Scotty, it was just funny. Like you were talking about like a bucket getter and like just a guy out there. And I think back to guys we had and guys we lost, and like a name that resonates with me every single time that was here for a very short stint and is gone. And every time I see him, he's just either splashing the three or just a pure bucket getter. I wish we still had Alec Burks so bad, dude. Like when he came over, who did he come over with? Glenn Robinson?
Glenn Robinson. Third.
Yeah, he came over and we were like, oh, like let's go. And again, that was right after Jimmy had just left and he came here. He didn't know his role. And Glenn Robinson didn't know his role. And so I really wish we had Alec Burks coming off the bench for the 76ers right now.
I do feel that. I really like what he's turned into. And he's kind of gotten an opportunity. I don't know if it's because he's playing for Tom Thibodeau, who's just really disciplined, but he's kind of really disciplined his game down. The problem with him was like a lot of forced shots and bad shots. Do you think CJ? I think so. The Sixers are a good defensive team, but overall his size is always going to be an issue as a guard. He's a small guard. Seth's a small guard. That's going to be an issue in the playoffs at some point. But yeah, he could be better on defense, right? And then
it can't get much worse. So
yeah, exactly. Right.
Let me ask you guys this.
Indeed, it helps like having a presence.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. How surprised are you? Let's say the report's true, because that's all it is right now. It's a report.
Yeah.
How surprised are you that it's with all that's going on in and all the turmoil in Portland? It's not that Dame wants out. It's that he wants Ben there. Does that surprise you at all? Like everything that's going down, they fire what's the name of the dude?
Olschneer
and the players and Chauncey Billups, are on thin ice, and they have like the worst defense or the 30th ranked defense in the NBA. They're horrible, and he wants to stay, but he wants Ben there. What's the thought? What's your guy's thought process there?
I think he hasn't tried it with anyone else yet. And that was a big discussion going into this year, too, is you're just bringing back the same team every year. Last year, I added Norman Powell, which is a little bit different of a look. He's better than they flipped Gary Trent for him. But what's the definition of insanity? Trying to do the same thing over and over again, expect different results. And now this year, I think he's finally at the point where it's like, okay, everyone is getting better. If you look around everywhere, everyone's getting better. And we are bringing back Robert Covington, Yusuf. I play 11 games in a month. It's so I don't blame him.
Zach Collins still isn't a Trailblazer, is he?
He wants.
Is he? I don't think he is.
That was one of my favorite.
Any burn wherever he is.
He said that was one of my favorite college basketball players.
Oh no, he's on the Spurs. That's a really good spot for him.
I thought he was on the Spurs.
Is he playing?
Probably. Well, he's not quite hurt right now, but
yeah.
But what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Like, how surprised are you that it's not, with everything going on and all the rumors you heard in the summer of Dame's going to want out if nothing changes? It's not that he wants out; he wants 2-5 there reportedly.
I think he's just loyal to a fault, man. You don't see it very often. I think that's why it's kind of just weird to all of us. But he's doubling, he's tripling down that he loves Portland, and part of me hates him for that. I can't blame him.
Portland.
He's loyal, man.
What's in Portland?
I do admire it. I admire Giannis for staying in Milwaukee. I admire Embiid for sticking with us. Like I do. I admire the loyalty. But yeah, I think it's to a fault in a sense. And I do agree with what Gent said. I think it's something new. They are one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive team in the NBA. You bring in the best defender in the NBA, right? Like one of the best defenders in the NBA. Makes a lot of sense. He can facilitate, feed off a Dame. It would be a good fit. I think he would make Portland better. I do. I think Ben and Dame would be a pretty good duo. I think Dame covers a lot of Ben's deficiencies in the guard spot. So you have both of them at the guard spots. Dame can do everything that Ben can't, and Ben can do everything that Dame's not at. So it evens out in that sense.
Let me ask you guys for this because I know we got to wrap up soon, but in the back of Daryl Morey's head, are the Sixers a better team last year with Ben than they would be with CJ this year? Because Portland's going to be a better team with Ben and CJ.
Right. So you're saying Daryl's going to stick to what his gun, saying only if it makes us better.
I mean, would you look back on a trade and be like, wow, we got worse, Portland got better?
Here's the thing. If you know what the current situation is of he's not playing for us. Like he's just right now we're at 0. CJ gets us to 1, right? So I would say you can't look at it that way because that's a team with Ben on the floor compared to a team with no one on the floor in that spot. So
I agree. I was just playing devil's advocate because, I mean, like we talked earlier with Hurts, and it's like, oh, if you don't go after Rodgers and Russell Wilson and you let him play next year, he sucks. It's like the same thing with this. If you don't go after CJ McCollum, he's really available, and then you trade him for Andrew Wiggins in a month, it's like, wow, we might have messed this one up, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Just to answer your question, Gant, it surely could end up like that. My one worry, and I'm sure it's everybody's worry with a deal like that, and it's the size of your guards. I mean, we saw Seth get picked on last year in the playoffs on defense. So what do you think they're going to do with 2 guys the same size as Seth, right? Like CJ McCollum and Seth are like basically the same prototype of, size of a player or size of a guard. So that,
I guess my response to that is kind of just why I was fed up with all the back and forth at the end of last year with Ben on the defensive side. And trust me, I loved it. And I know he's the best, to me, he's the best defender in the NBA. Yeah. But we just said it with Portland, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again. Well, what's all that length and size in our backcourt gotten us so far? Right. So second round exit.
We tried it once. Not
really.
Times. Well, Danny, I mean, also we didn't try it with the full roster from last year.
Also. No, I get that.
Don't get me wrong. Like I said, sign me up for the deal right now. Yeah. Do it, and you figure it out after. You have this Hall of Fame head coach, right? Your backcourt small, Hall of Fame head coach, figure it out.
Yeah.
The small backcourts that win, so figure it out.
Hall of Fame head coach better coach like a Hall of Fame head coach.
I swear, man. Just to answer the other question over here, I just wanted to touch on this. I don't know if I would trade. I don't know what I would trade Seth for. Like if it was like the determining factor in that trade that they want Seth back in it.
Oh, for Dame? Yeah, I would trade everyone.
But I'm not going out like shopping Seth, right? Like he's a nice commodity on the contract that he has. So it borderline makes you just not want to move him. There's somebody else that you'd probably rather move than Seth. But if it's for Dame, I mean, I'm pushing the needle.
All right. I think that's going to do it for this Monday edition, this Victory Monday of the Faithful Fanatics Show.
Minshew Mania Monday.
Yeah.
Minshew Mania.
Some other side notes. The Phillies can't do anything because the MLB wants to be a bunch of D-heads and decide to go into a lockout. So no Castellanos, no Kyle Schwarber, no Chris Bryant, no nothing for quite some time. But we'll keep you updated on that.
How long is this last? Like how is there like a projection? No.
As of right now, there's no fear. There's no fear that they're going to miss any games or miss the season because it's still so far off. Now, come mid-January, late January, early February, then you might see them panicking, rushing to get a deal done because okay, we got to get going for spring training. But right now, they're kind of they're children, dude. They're just 7-minute meeting. Are you joking? Like whatever, figure it out. The Flyers fire AV this morning. Flyers have lost 8 in a row now.
How do you feel about that?
About AV getting fired? I feel like it was coming.
Do you think it was like a cop-out, though?
I don't know the answer to that because here's the thing. Part of me says the Flyers are they're just lacking talent. I thought they were going to be the best team in the city, fully healthy. And they started off the season very good. Ryan Helms is a top 5 defenseman in the NHL, top 10 defenseman in the NHL. He's played maybe 3 games. And he's week to week. They missed Derek Brassard for a while now. Joel Farabee's out now. Kevin Hayes has been in and out of the lineup. They are really banged up. But then when I have like a buddy of mine sending me these numbers of the power play over the last X amount of games, 4 goals in like 70 some tries. And it's like, he doesn't adjust. He's not changing. Also, imagine watching Doc Rivers not adjust and sit back, watching the same thing happen and losses over and over again. It's what it would be like watching the Flyers every night and then. You lose a game 7. I said the game earlier. Hockey's a dirty sport, man. It is the only league of the major leagues where you don't perform for like 3 weeks after like a down season or whatever. Heads start to roll, bro. Yeah. Like, you got to remember, the Flyers are about the same point in their season the Sixers are. They have played a little bit more games than the Sixers, and he's gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer. I think partially it's a cop-out because I don't think they have enough, and they have a lot of injuries. But he didn't help anything.
Yeah, he didn't make a difference.
He didn't adjust. There was coaching issues. There were locker room. So whatever, he's gone. We'll see where they go from there.
It's crazy to me, you know. And obviously, I don't keep up with the Flyers as much as like someone like you does. Like I love the Flyers. I love all Philly teams, but my main sports are football and basketball. When I'm thinking about the Flyers, man, it's just so crazy to see him fired today. And just thinking about when the pandemic started and like how exciting the Flyers were.
Yeah.
We were calling AV the best coach in Philly, right? Like it's so crazy how things we watched it happen to the Eagles. It's crazy how things go downhill so fast, man. It sucks.
Here's what's crazy to me, man, before we wrap this up. At one point in time in Philadelphia for the 4 major sports, we had the first ever Eagles Super Bowl head coach who we loved at the moment. AV just got to town, who was a huge signing for the Flyers, right, to get them over that hump.
Yeah.
Joe Girardi just got to town, a World Series champion, and Doc Rivers, an NBA champion and future Hall of Famer, is in town. And all we do, just one's out of town, or 2 are out of town, and the other 2 get bitched at non-stop. It's crazy to me. 3, if not all 4 of them are. Doug's probably not a future Hall of Famer, but the other 3, AV, Joe Girardi, and Doc Rivers, are all future Hall of Fame coaches in their respective sports. And
it's crazy.
They're gone, and people want the rest out the door. So don't get me wrong. They had their flaws.
He never settles.
They had their flaws, man. But Joe Girardi, we can talk about that another time. Joe Girardi does piss me off. And
I know that's what I was telling my girl the other day. I was like, man, people were clamoring for Joe Girardi to come here. And now, Gabe Kapler's won Manager of the Year. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man.
That's Skins boy.
Curse of Philly.
All right, guys, let's go. Oh, real quick, Sixers, Hornets tonight. I think we all know where this is going. Round table. I got the Sixers winning tonight. Scotty?
Yeah, I got Sixers.
Go Sixers.
Take care of business.
Oh, Sixers. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Phaithful Fanatics. And, of course, DSM Media and the Phaithful Fanatics Show are brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code Phanatics at manscaped.com. Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. This upgraded trimmer includes a multi-function on and off switch that can engage a travel lock. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. And did I mention the wireless charging? The new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery life last longer. Get 20% off and free shipping with code Phanatics at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com using our promo code Phanatics. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will certainly thank you. Guys, it's Christmas time. What better way? What better gifts to give people than using our promo codes right here at DSM Media? Each show, whatever show you want to follow, has its own code. Ours is Phanatics. Go on manscaped.com. Buy your loved ones a gift. Where else to go? And then, of course, if you want to rep any DSM Media gear, any shirts, anything, honestly, we are on TeePublic. So head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Click the link tree in our bio. TeePublic comes up first. And we got a bunch of designs. MV3 designs for Bryce Harper's MVP. We got a Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni design up there. DSM Media designs, Phaithful Fanatics designs. We got a whole bunch of stuff. So head on over to TeePublic @DSM_media. For myself, for Gint, for Scotty, and for DSM Media, have a great night.
Go Birds.